All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jenna Ochoa. Some of you may be familiar with my voice by now. I've been doing a few podcasts here for LiveO2. I am in charge of some of the marketing that we do, and I am joined by our VP, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Jenna.
And we also have a special guest, Billy Wees. Hi, Billy. How are you?
Great. How are you, Jenna?
I'm doing well. Where are you joining us from today?
I am in North Carolina.
All right. I mean, I knew you were Southern from your accent, so I'm sure you never hear that, right?
Never.
But Billy has agreed to join us today. He has just recently purchased several adaptive contrast machines. I think several, more than one, right, Billy?
I purchased the dual.
The dual system. Okay. Right. Thanks for the correction. So yeah, we're excited to talk to him one-on-one, get his experience and what he's been feeling. I guess he's been using it for around a week now. But right. The reason that Billy is making a very interesting guest, at least from my perspective, is that he is a trained pharmacist who trains people not to rely on prescription drugs. So Billy has lots of things going. He has a program called OptiURX, which is what I was just talking about, helping people get off of meds and onto more healthy and natural practices, I guess. And we'll learn about it here in a minute. He also has a CrossFit Kings Mountain gym. So Billy's an avid CrossFitter, as all members of his family are, from what I understand. And then he has 3 prescription plus pharmacies where he kind of does some of his own compounding and stuff like that. So super interesting guest. We're excited to get to know you today, Billy. So let's go ahead and kick it off. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself and all of the endeavors you're involved in.
Sure. I am, my wife and I are both traditionally trained pharmacists at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And when I went into pharmacy, I thought that I was going to be, just in my mind, I decided at 14, that's what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be helping people get well. That's what I had thought. But I had 3 weeks to go in pharmacy school, and something really changed the whole course of my career in pharmacy was that my grandmother called, and I called her Granny. She did a ton of stuff for me and my family, and she called and said she had a lump on her neck, and they told her it was cancer, and she's going to an oncologist. So my wife and I are getting ready to graduate from pharmacy school, and I said, "Hey, Beth, look, we're going to go take her to this appointment," even though it was about a 3-hour drive for us to pick her up. So we did, and we got in, and the oncologist said, "Hey, chemo and radiation is the only thing we can do, and hopefully we'll extend your life, a few months." And so I just asked him, and I'll never forget it, what can we do to help Granny have a better outcome? And he said, absolutely nothing. And when we took Granny home, we were driving back to school. I was like, how in the world can both of us be getting ready to graduate from pharmacy school? And this guy has obviously got more education than either of us as a doctor with a specialty in oncology. And we can't come up with anything to help her have a better outcome. And so it just made me think, it started my wheels turning that maybe I had made a mistake, going into pharmacy, but I had a lot invested at this point. And so as my grandmother, she went downhill very quickly from working 40 hours a week to, bedridden, to changing her diaper. I mean, it just destroyed her mentally. She died just a few months after that. And when I was leaving the hospital the day she died, I told Beth, I said, I cannot. I was working at Ecker Drug at the time, and I said, I can't. I'm putting in my notice. And she's like, we just got married, bought a house. She's like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, you know what? I don't know, but I know for the next 4 years, I'm not doing this. Yeah. So I went down the road, had no clue what I was doing, to be quite honest with you. And that was the first of 3 prescriptions plus pharmacies. And I named it that because we wanted to offer prescriptions plus a lot more, which led me to go back and get some specialized compounding training. And I have a fellowship in metabolic and nutritional medicine from the Metabolic Medical Institute. So just different things like that, but it's just all led to the OptiURX wellness program, which is where we have people that have been able to work with their physician and discontinue 25 drugs and 5 insulin shots and lose weight and get over Crohn's disease. I mean, just things that we're told are not really possible.
Billy, when we first talked, one of the things that I loved about your wellness philosophy is somewhere you've got the tagline, become the CEO of your own health, or of your health. And it just like, at that moment I was like, this guy gets it. So it was really good to meet you on that level.
Yes, sir. That is one of the things that I try to do. My program is really based on education, and the big part of that, the first thing I do, Tom, we do wellness summits, and the first thing that I do is I have them we give them notebooks with studies and notes, everything's science based, and we make it very practical and understandable. But the first thing I have them do is open to the front page of their notebook and write, I am the CEO of my own health. Mm-hmm. Don't depend on the pharmacist. Don't depend on the doctor. Don't depend on your spouse or your kids. You have to be educated on what all the research seems to indicate Americans say is the most important thing in their lives is their health. Mm. And we don't, we're failing at it. The healthcare system is just failing. So we got to take charge and do something different.
It's this scary reality of basically, if you don't own it, somebody or something else will.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people don't even, hopefully some awareness is going off if you're listening to this. Think about that. And if you don't own 100% of your physiology, then, let's talk.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the really cool things that I've observed, at least. I mean, Billy, you said that you came across LiveO2 at Bulletproof a couple years ago, but something that I've really observed about these more popular movements that might seem kind of trendy, but the biohackers and all of these people following strict diets and things like this, it really seems like there's a heightened interest right now in being the CEO of your own health. So I think that makes a great opportunity for people with different types of classes or products or whatever to really get in and make a difference, because it is enabling you to kind of bust away from the system that, I mean, just like what happened to your grandma is probably just going to end up saying, hey, we can't help you.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. So, I mean, I'm really positive about seeing a shift. And that being said, I'm pretty new to the whole market and observing it, but I do think that there is a shift, and I think it's a really good thing.
Well, I definitely think you're right, Jenna. And I literally I teach this all over the country, but I didn't used to travel. I used to just be confined to my little town here in North Carolina, but I've had people fly from Kansas City, Kansas. I've had people fly from California and Texas, and there are definitely people that are looking for help. They just don't know where to find it. And unfortunately, again, my wife and I both part of this system. I just think the system is broken. I didn't learn any of what I teach in pharmacy school. What I do now was all learned outside and after and on my own. And, people will go through my weekend and they will be really, really upset with either their pharmacist or their doctor or their both. Mm-hmm. Like you can't be upset with them, because I used to be in that same boat. I didn't know any of this. I couldn't tell you this. So it is sad that we're in that situation, but the good news is that I do believe people want to become the CEOs of their own health. And I see people literally from all over the country that come to me to do that. So I just think that it's going to take time. Yeah. But I do think that the shift is coming, that people are going to take charge and they're going to see that this broken system of prescription drugs only as the first line of defense is not the way to go.
I agree. Well, and I think, a lot of people might think about owning their health as being very overwhelming. So what I'd like to do is just kind of let both of you guys talk about what are some easy ways to look at your health and maybe not be so overwhelmed at, like, Tom, I know a lot of times when you speak to people who are interested in training in oxygen multi-step training, which is what we offer, that people are really in a health rut. So they look at it and they think, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever, or oh my gosh, this is impossible. So why don't we kind of transition and talk, maybe about that overwhelming feeling and how people can address that a little bit. And then I'd like Billy to kind of give us his experience with oxygen to see. I mean, like I said, he's only been using it for a week, so it's pretty cool that we get a new user to give us his firsthand experience.
This is the place where it happens. And Billy, you're clearly a guide at taking people through this, and you've created a system that they can follow and kind of have this realization of, okay, little bit by little bit, I can gain this. And that's exactly the way it has to happen. It doesn't happen all at once, but if you're out there and you find yourself in a place where, hey, I don't like where my health is going. It's not in alignment with, my solutions. And if you feel like it's overriding a couple of your core beliefs, then you really know you're going to have trouble with it. First thing that when we work with somebody that's in that, I want to call it mindset, or in that, health challenge, is we just have to get them to stop. It's just stop for a second and realize, first and foremost, everything is okay. And if we can get them really nice and grounded, then they will actually start listening to their body. And this is the thing, we have to start with that belief of, okay, do you believe that you're the best person to guide your health and to own it and make your health decisions? And then after that, they're off to the races. They start finding people like Billy. They start finding, modalities like LiveO2. And that's where they become the main participant in their health. And then it's just kind of like they're checking in. We'll get calls, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll say, oh, I've heard a lot of good things about it. But it's kind of a little bit of a rebirth. And I have a feeling you're doing a similar thing of just saying, let's get our minds around this and figure out who's the boss.
Well, and Tom, that's correct. And Jenny, you said it, but the some of the biggest success stories I have, believe it or not, are doctors or doctors' families or spouses, nurses. So people in the healthcare field who thought they were doing everything they could do and they had lost hope. I've had, just crazy stories of people with stomach pain or Crohn's disease for 30 years, and they hadn't had a solid bowel movement, and they hurt every day, and they miss work, and they miss their kids' events. And within sometimes within just 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, wow, I'm off all my meds. I don't have any stomach pain. My sugar's normal. I've lost 8 pounds of fat. I mean, so I think that the LiveO2 can just take what I believe are already unheard of phenomenal results of the program and just accelerate this even more and give them that more hopeful feeling, because if we can put them through a 15-minute session when they're coming for the weekend summit and they can feel that immediately, I just think it's going to give them more confidence. Like Tom said, then they're off and running, and they're going to do step number 2. Tom, you like step number 1, so I'll tell you step number 2 that I teach is stop the insanity. And I say that because, I have an example of a lady, her name's Callie, and she doesn't mind me sharing this story. She's a registered nurse, and she came to my program, and I do a wellness workshop where I introduce people to my weekend summit, and she just busted out crying. And I'd never met Callie, and I didn't know Callie, and I'm a guy, I didn't know what to do. So I just kind of stopped what I was doing. I went and put my hand on her shoulder, and I just said, hey, is there anything we can do for you? And this is a lady in the healthcare field who just was bawling and said, I am 39 years old, and for the last 21 years, I've had stomach pain every day. I'm obese. I've been diagnosed with endometriosis, pre-diabetes, fibrocystic breast, eosinophilic esophagitis. I mean, and she started naming all this stuff off. And she said, I am an absolute disaster at 39. She said, it's embarrassing, my 2 kids, you know, and I was like, listen, the good news is you're here and you're looking to do something different. So instead of going through 21 years of what I will say is insanity of doing the same thing over and over, right, and expecting a different result, she took charge of her health. I'm glad to tell you that Callie lost in 12 weeks. Callie lost, well, not 12 weeks, excuse me, in about 16 or 18 weeks. She lost 65 pounds of fat.
Wow.
She gained 2 pounds of muscle. And she was off all 7 of her prescription meds. Her husband, Sonny, lost 55 pounds, came off all 4 of his blood pressure meds. And I wonder how much faster and how much more confidence could I give that couple if I had had this Live O2 back then when they came through.
Still, that's really amazing results, though, for both of those.
It is, but I'll tell you my experience, Jenna, I think is where you wanted me to go. I'm sorry if I got off on a tangent, but
Oh, that's okay.
I've had my dual unit for about a week now, and my wife, Beth, and I, and my 3 kids are using it every day, and I've been using it twice a day. Just to not really real hard both times, just kind of a recovery after CrossFit the second time in the evenings. But the first thing that I noticed was an increase in mental clarity, for sure. The first time both of us got off, my wife Beth and I, and we were like, wow, feel a little, almost even a little lightheaded right off the first one, which was a good lightheaded, not like a pass out lightheaded. And I knew I got in the shower that night and I was like, man, I should have done this when I was writing my book. I should have, when I was developing the program, this would have been a lot easier. So I felt the brain power. But since then, over the week, I mean, I do CrossFit at least 6 days a week. Now, don't take my example, and because I teach so many people that are overtraining, but I think that I have done so many things that I can recover, that I'm doing the right things. So I did a crazy workout. I think it was Wednesday. We did a crazy workout with lots of over 100 pull-ups and running and, deadlifts and stuff. And normally after that many pull-ups, I would have been, my lats would have been sore. Beth did the same workout. We both went home that evening after the workout. We got on we have assault bikes hooked up to it right now. We got on the assault bikes and we just did kind of an easy session. And Tom, you'll have to correct me. I have no clue what the programs are. I'm just making it up as I go, quite honestly. But we did an easy session of a couple minutes of recovery on the high oxygen, maybe 10 or 15 minutes down on low oxygen, but not at a really high pace, just to drive the oxygen down and try to drive the red blood cells up and the inflammation down, all the things that Tom knows the science of. And then we popped it back up and just did like a 5 or 6 minute recovery, really easy with the high O2. And then we have a teeter, an inversion device, and we inverted because I heard that on one of the podcasts. I think Jenna and Tom were both on it, where the guy was talking about all the health issues he'd overcome. And we just did maybe a minute or 2 each on the teeter still with the mask on. And I got to tell you, I was not one bit sore from all the pull-ups. I felt great after the deadlifts and the running. So I feel like it's going to help me recover even faster, and all the science certainly backs that. So those are the things that I've noticed the most, is recovery and mental clarity, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And before I ask Tom to explain a little bit behind that, did you purchase this for your gym? Is that correct? Or are you using it as a personal user, or both?
Really, both. I really purchased it for my wellness program for the Opti.
Okay.
But the logical place to have it is at CrossFit, so that the CrossFitters can benefit also. So it's dual for me, honestly. Well, I say dual. I'm not trying to be funny. It's a dual system, but it has dual purposes. I want to perform as good as I can, as long as I can. I want to have a really high quality of life, no matter how long I live. But the main people that I work with an oncologist sends all his cancer patients through my program because of the results he's seen. And I'm always teaching, Dr. Warburg's research. Hey, in 1931, he discovered that, cancer is anaerobic. It can't live without oxygen. It doesn't like alkalinity. It wants to be in an acidic, anaerobic, no oxygen environment. And I just started thinking about all these people that come through my program, and literally they're looking for a miracle. Most of them are looking for an absolute miracle. And I'm like, if I can help them just a little bit more with, their treatment that their oncologist or whoever's doing, and with this program, and we can get them even better results and explain. I've always taught that that cancer can't survive in an oxygen-rich alkaline environment. And then again, when I started listening to more of Tom talking and the science he's talking about, and he's talking about it, creating more alkalinity, less inflammation, which I always say at the core of every disease is inflammation and lack of energy in the cells. And well, this seems to be the best of all of that to use this Live O2 system.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's great that you have a dual usage for yourself. We usually recommend, for folks that are going to ultimately train other people on Live O2, we like for them to obviously try it themselves, and so they can firsthand experience the benefits. But it sounds like, you named a few things. So like mental clarity, reduction of soreness is one that we've touched on some too in the most recent podcast. So Tom, why don't you talk us through, I guess, a little bit about what benefits or results that Billy's seeing, and why that's happening specifically with the adaptive contrast system?
Absolutely. The thing that, Billy, I think you're using, is it in-body scan? Was that, to have that right? Or am I getting you confused?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So, Billy mentioned some pretty interesting things about lean body mass and fat loss. And you've actually got a tangible metric to look at that. And it's a real important thing of any of these processes, but that's, real data when you're saying somebody loses 65 pounds of fat. That's huge. And it's important for us to have that, because what we're providing the body with, and I'm working my way back to Jenna's question here, this all happens in the fluid of our body. And we think of the blood as a big part of it. If we don't have the right blood, and we don't have enough movement of our blood or enough potential in our body, then we basically don't get any results. And that's, I think, the biggest growing trend is what we're seeing is a lot of people are calling it participatory healthcare, participatory medicine. But it's the next level of your lifestyle where you got to move your body. And the next thing in there, that's a mandatory thing. You got to move your body. It's designed to move, but you got to give it the right ingredients. And Billy has come up with a program where he's got the whole line of nutritional support. And I'm sure you work on the fluid body and the electrolytes.
Yes.
And this is where a lot of people, kind of their awareness stops. And what we have to teach to them is, okay, that hidden right in front of our nose is the thing that our body needs most. And if we don't have the right nutrition behind it, we definitely don't get to use oxygen correctly to rebuild our bodies. But a lot of times we're not getting enough oxygen to even create the efficiency of our body. And that's where all these results start to come from, in terms of just getting oxygen into our body to burn whatever fuel we're on, if it's glucose or fatty acids or proteins. We need oxygen to make that metabolism run. So it's where our efficiency is. And it's plain simple fact. We're designed to be aerobic. And when we start doing adaptive contrast, we're shifting our body into its best potential of being aerobic. And the next thing to follow is the conversation of, okay, are we giving the body the other things that it needs? Are we supporting it with the right water and the right nutrition? But first and foremost, we've got to breathe. And when we do that, when we're moving, it allows the body to open up. We're getting rid of inflammation. We're recruiting blood. In some cases, we're breaking up old blood. And you can kind of think as blood, it's the vitality of our body. And if we can't get it to a certain part of a tissue, that tissue is not going to work. It's not going to be able to get the ingredients that it needs to rebuild. And it's not going to be able to take out the trash that it's been accumulating. And this is really the story of aging. And, it's interesting. In a biochemistry setting, you have certain doses of compounds that produce certain results. If the body's not moving, you need more of a compound to get a certain result because it's basically going into an inactive system. And this is, maybe one of the benefits if you still are out there and you still need a pharmaceutical compound for a small amount of time to kind of bring you out of a danger zone, if you will. It's much better that your body is moving and potentialized so that a smaller dose can work better. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of times we don't understand, and we'll, go through healthcare program where that dose keeps going up, or there's another compound, to take care of another, aspect of this disease that we're, trying to treat. And at some point, what we have to do is just return to the fact that, okay, does the body have what it needs? And if it's got everything it needs and it still needs that, then it's probably a good place to go. If we're going all these other places before we've got the basic foundation in place, we're just not going to get the results. So when we look at, increased mental function, better energy, not getting sore after workouts, or even just something as simple as sleeping better or digesting your food better, this is all just a process of giving your body initially what it needs. And it's a very simple priority of oxygenation, hydration, and nutrition, and movement, the right amount of movement.
Yeah, Tom, you hit on some things right there that really stick in my mind as to what I'm teaching. And my program is based on 5 pillars: God-given quality foods, the world's best nutritional supplements, the right water, science-based exercise, which obviously this falls right into, and rest and recovery. Here's the problem, and we keep records on all these folks that come through. We have just tremendous results, and all these things happen, and these people are able to work with their physician and get their drugs reduced and discontinued over time. But the exercise part, pillar 4, is the toughest one. We just are unable to get most to participate. Even though I teach all the science and we even exercise or offer them the opportunity to do some exercise that weekend with us so they can see that it doesn't take long and you don't have to have any special equipment. We make it super simple. So my thought is that if I can take and say, hey, how about doing a 15-minute session once a week? Can I get you to do that? 15 minutes, and we're going to, according to what I think I heard you say somewhere, and if I'm misspeaking, please correct me, but a 15-minute session on the LiveO2 could equate to somewhere between 2 to 3 hours of aerobic exercise. If I could get them to do that once a week and that be the equivalent of 2 or more hours of exercise, can you imagine the acceleration in the results that we can get? And that's what excites me about it.
Yeah, you're gonna LiveO2 is gonna change all of your science-based exercise components. When you can work out and feel better afterwards, that's the key. You'll have folks walking in saying, what next? And,
Well, that is a great point. And you mentioned that, hey, if we've done everything possible and then we need the pharmaceutical drugs, then that's a good place to go. But I think what people fail to understand, Tom, and even me as a pharmacist in pharmacy school didn't get this. But you may already know about this study, you and Jenna, but there's a study out by the University of Stanford School of Medicine. So, pretty reputable place, right? University of Stanford. And they did a study and said, hey, how many side effects does the average prescription drug have? Or first of all, they said, how many side effects does the average prescription drug company admit to? What is in the package insert that the doctor and the pharmacist get? Well, that number is shocking to most people. And every time I teach a class, I ask how many side effects. And, they'll guess 6, 8, 10, 12. Then the actual number is 69.
Oh, my word.
Average number of side effects listed by the drug company's own literature is 69. The University of Stanford School of Medicine went further with their study and said, we want to find out how many real side effects there are. So, Tom, I think this gets to your point. You said they're on one drug and then they need a higher dose or they need another drug. It's probably from a side effect, in my opinion, in most cases, from their first drug. So what the university study showed was that the real number of side effects for one prescription drug, you could take the 69 and add 329 to get to a grand total of 398.
Oh, my goodness.
And to my knowledge, prescription drugs really, other than antibiotics, don't really cure or heal anything, right? They just kind of cover up the symptoms so the labs look better or so, and it's like, we got to get to the root cause of what's going on and fix it. And I certainly think that this technology can, again, change, like you say, just change the course of what I'm doing and help people get there quicker and just make a huge difference in these folks with neuropathies and diabetes and cancers and Crohn's disease. They're all inflammatory, right? Everything's inflammatory. So,
well, it's a big number. That's 398 reasons to own your health.
yes.
And the side effects of drugs are coming in as the doses get higher. And if your body is optimal and you still need the drug, chances are your dose will be lower and you won't have those side effects. But that number just blows me away. I was thinking of the drug commercials that have the fast talk and the long list of things going on at the end, but
fine print.
it's 69 items of fine print. So I guess there's motivation out there if you start looking at those things. Is that really a solution? And this is the thing, is it's an answer, right? And if you're out there looking for clues, there are a lot of people that are going to be giving you answers. But what each individual has to figure out is, what is my health solution? And you have to identify with that. And if you're not making decisions based from that place, then unfortunately somebody's going to be making those decisions for you, and they're not going to be the right ones. But this story Billy, going back to your grandmother, it's only if she could have found the right person to work with her in a different way, the story would be different, and I can't tell you how many times I've experienced people saying that. And this is the idea of, it's never too late to find a better way. And yes, work with your doctors, but also identify with your solution and listen to your body. There's some marvelous solutions that are there that are very simple, and they work with your body, and your body has this amazing intelligence that if we just connect with that type of thing, it heals itself, and you're the participant in that. But it takes a little bit more searching sometimes. I think we fall for answers when they're not the solution.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Tom, one of the things that I tell folks when I finish that story or kind of get to the point where I'm going to start introducing the 5 pillars is, I don't think that I could guarantee uh, Granny one more day of life, but I am 100% sure she could have had a much better quality of life had I known then what I know now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell all the cancer patients. And I work with an oncologist almost every single day. He and I have conversations because he doesn't, it's not something he was taught in school either, but he has seen that the people who started saying, hey, I'm going through this program, well, they didn't need as many pain meds. They didn't lose their hair. They may not miss any work. They had better outcomes. And he's like, I don't necessarily get it all, but I'm going to send everybody there that'll listen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the encouraging part to me, is that, he's out there saying, hey, I don't get it, but I see the results. So let's utilize it for my patients. And if we can get people to think like you're saying, there's all kind of solutions out there. If we'll look, the thing that concerns me is, from my standpoint, what I see a lot of is what I call people who are weekend experts, and they don't really have any training in any of this, and they don't have any background, and they've gone to a conference over a weekend or something and learned about the newest, greatest supplement or the newest, greatest protein. And what I typically find is those things are actually toxic in the long run and can create more problems. And that's what I love about the Live O2 product, is that it's all based on science. Y'all have science behind it. And with the training that I have, I understand the science, and it just all makes sense. It just makes so much sense that people can use this kind of product. They can use my program, and they can know it's science-based, and it works. It just works. So that's the beauty to me, is there's really zero side effects to what I teach. Is what I tell people. Is a little effort. You're just changing some habits, and you can have just a phenomenally better quality of life. And so that's what I'm looking to do. And that's what I think this product will help me be able to do for other folks.
What both of you guys have touched on is really the importance of just starting and just searching. So I understand a lot of our listeners are in various situations. So, Billy sees a lot of cancer patients. Well, not a lot, but I'm not sure, but you see cancer patients and different other types of people who are suffering from different diseases. And similarly, we have people researching our product for the same reason. But the point is that all of these people probably have a certain scope of what they're looking at, these health challenges. And like I mentioned before this, a lot of people are just in kind of a health rut. So I think what philosophy we really like to adhere to, and I'm sure it's the same for you, Billy, with your program, is just for you guys to start and just get started. I know that it may seem overwhelming, but once you start searching and becoming educated, you will feel more empowered to take control of your own health and really start owning it and saying, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do that. I need to ask a doctor about this. But you'll feel a lot more confident in approaching the research and approaching different types of things you're curious about. So, that's kind of the goal of what we're doing here with this podcast, is just to try and educate people a little bit more and hopefully continue this push and this shift that we're seeing kind of not in the marketplace, but in how people are approaching their health. So I would just encourage everybody to stay positive and feel confident in taking the first step. So I guess, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up and be respectful of you guys' time, but Billy, do you have any recommendations for people who are feeling overwhelmed and feeling like they don't know what first step to take to get out of their health rut?
Sure, Jenna. I think that you hit on something really important. So step one that I teach people is they have to be their own CEO. They have to be the CEO of their own health. And in order to do that, they have to be educated. And it's got to be educated based on science and experience and things that work. and not just grasping, for anything. They have to stop doing the same thing that hadn't worked. They have to stop the insanity, right? But you just said it. Number 3 is they need to take action. And this stuff is not really difficult. I always used to, my kids growing up, I would tell them, hey, this is not rocket science. My program is really not rocket science. What my program is, though, is based on the real science of the way the body works and how simple some things. Now, I'm not taking anybody and saying, hey, what you have is simple. Some things just turn around so quickly. Our bodies are so amazing when we give it, and Tom's hit on this, the nutrition, the oxygen, the water, the exercise. I mean, we put it all together with the rest and the recovery, and they can do simple things that can make a huge difference. So yeah, I would encourage them to contact somebody, with the Live O2 system. They can certainly come to my website. I do consults all the time. We do phone, Zoom, whatever. I mean, but the first step to me is for anybody who is suffering is to make the decision that they're going to do something different than what they've always done. And they're not going to stay in the same rut of going from specialist to specialist, and nothing wrong with that. Just, if you're not getting results, I tell people, if I can't help you feel better in 2 weeks, I'm going to refer you to somebody else. So let's don't keep going through that system that if it's not getting us results, let's look outside the box and let's think outside. Because Tom said it, I think something to the effect, there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of stuff that works and it's not super expensive, and it only has positive effects versus negative effects. And so I just think we live in such a world of technology and this, the things that are out there now and what we've learned in the last decade or two about the body and the science of it and the way to produce energy and fight these diseases. It's just amazing. So I think it's a time that people should be excited about, is how do we start to correct this and have true, what I like to call optimal health, where they revive, thrive, and optimize. I mean, it's just not, it's not something that's out of reach for anybody, no matter what their situation is, what I would say.
And Tom, what do you feel about, what are your tips for somebody who's feeling overwhelmed or maybe doesn't know where to start?
Well, I think Billy will agree with this. Sometimes when you have a product or have information that you're teaching, it sometimes gets in the way of, the primary message. And for us, and I think Billy, it's the same. It's empower yourself.
Yes.
And enable yourself just to know that there's a way you were created, and I wish we were all born with instruction manuals, and we had to sign a contract that says, yes, I get this. But just know that you are designed to be just absolutely magnificent. There's a completely divine plan that is there. And we don't recognize that, but once you tap into it, it's amazing. It's contagious, and it's one of the best things you'll do, because it is going to be the key of you achieving what you need to achieve in this lifetime. If you don't have your health, basically this erodes your spirit, and your spirit is the gift to the rest of the world. And we want people that are out there in their spirit. A smile can make the biggest difference in somebody's life. And we first have to kind of work on ourselves enough that we can say, okay, it's as simple as I love myself, and I'm going to do everything to honor myself, because I'm learning about my body, my spirit, my world, my universe. And then you can connect with other people on that level. And then I think you can jump out there and do what you really, it's your heart's desire. And you've got the first 2 steps in place. So it flows and it works. but you got to have your health in a lot of cases, I think, to take that first step of saying, I love myself and I'm caring for myself. And it's just, I think that's the message that sometimes a lot of people lose, where we start talking about a product, but really that's our biggest wish is, hey, this is you, and come join this group. And I think we're all connected in that channel, and it's a super place to be, and you can contribute to it, and you can motivate others, and it is wide open.
Very well said, I think, Tom. That is, I love your analogy there and the way you put that. I think it's really good.
Yeah, this is why I love having Tom on the podcast, because you have such a good talent for kind of zooming it out. And I think that's just a really important reminder for anyone listening, regardless of who you are, what your health situation is, or why you're even listening. That we have the ability to be the best version of ourselves. And thanks for that reminder, Tom. I think that's a great way to go into the holiday weekend. I know by the time people are listening to this, it may not be the holiday anymore, but it's sure sending me out on a positive vibe. So thanks for that. Gentlemen, I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you for spending some time with me today to just chat. And Billy, before we wrap up, why don't you tell us where our listeners can find out more about your program and maybe even more about your gym if anybody's located in the area?
Sure. The program will be www.optiurx.com. That's YOU, because we want people to be their optimal selves, their optimal health, wellness, and fitness is what I call it. And they can call, or if they want to call, 855-OPTIYOU. And then we have CrossFit Kings Mountain, which is just the website, crossfitkingsmountain.com, spelled out, Kings Mountain spelled out. So
very cool. And we can link up to that too once we get this into publication and into a blog post. I'll throw up some links to both of those things so whoever's listening can easily find it.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. Well, Billy, thank you for sharing your experience with your new AC system. And I guess we might have to do a round two and check in with you here in a couple months and see how you're doing.
I would love to.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today, guys. I appreciate it. And for those of you listening, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.